that I played professional hockey for 8 years.
Okay.
People that start companies don't understand that concept. There's going to be a ramp up time.
Yes, welcome to the Evolution Podcast. Today I have a special guest, former hockey player, and now he's a real estate entrepreneur. And today I have the pleasure of introducing Bob Lachance. Okay, Bob, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, like you said, my name is Bob Lachance. I have a couple different companies, a real estate investment company. I also have a virtual assistant company. So I do a lot of different stuff. I don't know how deep you want me to get.
Oh yeah, let's go all in, man. Come on, what you got?
All right. Sounds good. Like you just said, I played professional hockey for 8 years. I
Uh,
retired in 2004. So I've been in this business for a pretty long time. I started investing, like I said, back in 2004. Started
okay,
my first deal was a fix and flip. Then I jumped into the short sale world. And from 2000, what was it now? 2004, after I did my first flip, like I said, jumped in the short sale world. And then started a couple of real estate education programs while I was investing in real estate. And then 2014, while I was running a couple of those real estate education programs, I also was flipping properties, and I started my first VA company. Fast forward today, we did 240 transactions on my real estate side. We have over 1,000 VAs on my virtual assistant side. I'm no longer in the real estate education space. So
got
long and short, that's it.
no, that's very impressive. So I'm very curious here as to, why real estate? Why'd you go from, you go from professional hockey to real estate?
Quite frankly, it was very easy for me because I left school 2 classes short to get my degree when
Okay,
I signed my first contract, and
okay.
it was either by the time my 8 years were done, is either go back to school or jump in an industry that had zero barriers of entry, and we all know real estate, you don't need a degree for that.
True. What team did you play for when you played hockey?
So I signed with St. Louis Blues, and I played in their minor league team for 2 years, two more
Okay.
years here in the U.S., and then four more in Europe.
Oh man, I love it, man. I've watched a few hockey games and it's intense. It's intense. So now let's kind of like so still back on the and that on that real estate side. So you're able to
Mhm.
close what 240 transactions just last year, right?
Yep,
Okay.
correct.
So now the virtual assistants, how much of an impact of a role did that play in you actually closing 240 deals?
Oh, huge. They're our main lead generator. We do, and I know that some of this stuff we could dig into more, but we do a lot of texting, a lot of cold calling, a lot of direct mail just on our marketing side, and our VAs handle all of that. So, for instance, cold calling, obviously, we know the calling the list that we give them, and gauging seller motivation. As soon as someone raises their hand and says, "Yes, I'm interested in selling," it goes right to our acquisition team. Same thing with text messaging. We text them and pre-screen the lead. Then it goes to our sales floor. Direct mail, we have to pull the list, send it to our direct mail outfit, and then as soon as they call back, VAs first pick up the phone, pre-screen the lead, then send it over to our sales.
Interesting. So now, what is the size of the transactions that you're doing, right? Like as far as like what's the average deal, and also with the current interest rate, what's going on in the mortgage market right now, has that impacted did that impact you in a positive or in a negative light?
It's funny. It's our rate right now. We're averaging about 28,000 on a as a an average on our closings.
O-
Has the interest rate affected us? It has not. There's still
Okay,
a ton of buyer. It's a ton of buyers out there. I mean, I know in your different markets, I know you move around a lot, but there's a lot of buyers here in Connecticut. There's a lot of buyers in Florida where we do business. A lot of buyers in the other states as well that we do business
interest. So now it's mostly just investors because I mean the interest rate, what 7-8%?
7-8%. But it's funny. There's a lot of owner occupants looking for houses right now.
Really
So not that I'm seeing. Yep, ton of them.
interesting. Interesting. So now in the deals you're doing, is it like single family homes? You going doing like multifamily? Like
Yep.
what's your
Yeah, mostly we stay in the single family realm. That's our bread and butter. Anywhere from 1 to 4 units.
1 to 4 units? Okay. Are you familiar with
Yep.
Grant Cardone? Are you familiar with Grant Cardone by
Yes.
chance? Yeah.
Yes, I am.
He preaches a lot of what he preaches is the multifamily home. So like, what's the risk? How are you able to mitigate the risk side? Risk, I'm assuming you're an investor for the most part, right? In some of these
I'm an
deals.
investor. Yep,
Yeah.
I'm
So
an investor.
how are you able to mitigate? How are you able to mitigate the risk of having one or two doors or three doors?
So mitigate. So here's the way I look at it. You have apartment complex individuals, investors that own houses. You have individuals that own 1 to 4 units. The
Okay.
way I look at it, it's way easier if you want to get out of your investment to sell a 1 to 4 unit rather than a big apartment complex. So that's the way
Okay.
and that's the way for me, I look at it as mitigating risk.
Gotcha. Okay. 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 Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So now it's as to finding the deals as far as the people and with the VAs per se is are you guys scrubbing the data? Like where do you get because most people I know a lot of people that get into real estate, but the biggest problem is you got to find a deal.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny when you talk to real estate agents, that's what they say. They say, listen, it's very difficult out there. We can't find deals. We find deals. Again, I use all my virtual assistants to do this. So scrubbing data, there's a bunch of different ways to get data. There's a site called PropStream where you could pull a list, right? If you want all non-owner occupants, if you want pre-foreclosure, whatever list you're looking for, or if you want to hit neighborhoods you're looking to buy in a certain neighborhood, you could
Okay.
pull down that list and then you get them skip trace, which means finding the best phone number for that particular record. And then we
Okay.
give it over to our virtual assistants. We upload it into the text platform that we use, which is Smarter Contact. We also
Okay.
upload it into a calling software that we also use. And then the virtual assistants are texting, calling as well.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Now,
Yep.
so now this is just kind of me on my end because a little
Mhm.
background on me is I used to sell insurance and back when I have a virtual assistant agency as well. And
Yep.
one of the big factors that we pay attention to is the DNC list,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
So you
We do the
guys,
same thing. Yeah. We
you,
scrub it as
you,
well.
you scrub it as well. Okay. Okay. Now, so you said that you were doing a lot of real estate coaching in the past, and you kind of did away with that. Why? If you don't mind me asking.
It was the time was right. COVID hit, and then it was a pivot of marketing what you can do because the company was a lot of live events.
Okay.
My main role was I helped build the coaching program from ground up. So I helped, recruit all the coaches, train all the coaches, manage all the coaches. So that was my role within that time. And then that was I first started in the pre foreclosure side. That was 2005, and then 2007 started another one, and that lasted all until COVID. And then, my two businesses started. My other two businesses started, really, really gaining traction. So I didn't really have enough time to do it, and it was just the right
Okay.
time to pivot. Yep.
Gotcha. So okay. So you said something which is interesting. Is you had the you were pretty much in pre foreclosure space. 2008. Right. I wasn't a buyer in 2008. How was that? How would you say the market was in 2008? And I'm gonna have a follow up question to this, but how was your experience with the
Yep.
pre foreclosure market?
So, it's funny, and this is some advice I'd give to any entrepreneur out there. You
Okay.
always have to look, 6 months ahead, a year ahead on decisions that you make in your business. And one thing we did very well is we pivoted. We were only doing what are called simultaneous closings, where we used end buyers funding to fund us out. We use land trust, all that kind of stuff. This is back in the day. And I don't want to get too deep in
Yeah.
that, but we saw the market changing and saw it changing. We pivoted into doing what we coined at that time as retail short sales. So we would do work for a lot of real estate agents for a
Okay.
fee, and the bank would pay us some fees at the time, and the agents would pay us some fees at the time. So we weathered all of that storm while also trying to get discounts big deep, and then reselling them as well.
Gotcha. Okay. Right. That's interesting. Okay. So now, obviously, you'd say it's pretty important with the buying low. That's where you make the profit for the most part.
Mhm.
Is you buy the
Yep.
property low. Now, do you think that we're actually right now with what's going on with the economy and the fact? Do you think we're actually set up for another 2008?
I don't. I just think you got elections coming up. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that we all
Yeah.
don't see. But if we can, I don't think it's gonna be bad. I think, if I had to guess, I would say, if something's gonna happen, the bottom's gonna drop off. It's gonna be at least 5 years. And this is just my opinion. I've
Okay.
been in this business for a long time, so I'm guessing it's gonna be at least 5 years. But again, that's just a guess because none of us know for 100%. But I'll tell you, as a real estate investor, what I like about what's
Okay.
going on now is that a lot of the individuals that never got educated the correct way or learned how to do business the right way are out of business, which means there's more opportunity for us.
I mean, there is more opportunity, but there's also more competition, right?
Yeah, I think competition is always going to be there, right? There's
That's true.
competition in every business. So I just look at it as whoever does things consistently over time will win.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So
Yep.
now, obviously, from this is just kind of like a little bit of a segue, right? A lot of entrepreneurs were never athletes, right? So
Yep.
they never had that discipline factor into it. I used to coach a little bit, and a lot of people have this instant gratification, right?
Mhm.
Now, you yourself, from going from being professional hockey to being in business, how much would you say discipline versus motivation? If you had to weigh, if you had to give a little bit, if you were like your 18-year-old self right now, which one
Yep.
would you say to focus more on?
So here's one thing I do know. If you're motivated and someone is behind you motivating you, you could do anything, right?
Okay.
And like over time you can learn discipline. I mean, it's just like in sports, you have to be disciplined, right? You got to work out. You got to, in the summertime, you have to do certain things, whether it's with weights, non-weights, running,
Okay.
etc. Right?
Uh-huh.
That's discipline. Motivating means it doesn't mean you're going to be doing them when you hit the ice or hit the field, right?
Huh?
You need motivation to get better every single day. So discipline is doing those tasks all the time, but motivation
Okay.
is doing it consistently every single day, right? Staying motivated and having that fire, that burn every single day.
Got you. Okay. Okay. So now, what would you say? Because a lot of people, there's a saying that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting these different results, right? How
Yep.
would you be able to discern, if you were talking to someone right now that's like, hey, I've been in my business for 2 years, I've been in my business for 3 years now, and
Mhm.
we're not seeing any profit, the margins are tight, I can barely make payroll, it's a struggle to get more clients. How would you get them to stay disciplined knowing that you're not seeing any results?
Well, I mean, what I would do is I would look to see what other people are doing, of course, right? But I
Okay.
would also join organizations, join communities, join masterminds where there are successful people. If you don't do that, it's going to be very difficult for us to change anything. So if we don't put
Gotcha.
ourselves in those particular communities, it's very, very different for us to learn anything new, to change anything.
Interesting. Okay, so environment is key. Environment is key. Okay,
Yep.
so just a little background on yourself. Like, how did you? I mean, whatever made you get started on hockey? Like how'd you get into hockey? You're just like, yeah, I just want. How did that happen?
Yeah. Well, a lot of us start because of our parents have a certain passion. My dad had a
Okay.
huge, huge passion on ice hockey. So that's how, we
Okay.
played everything from baseball, football, hockey, every type of sport that was soccer as well. So every single sport growing up. But my father's main focus was hockey. So my two older brothers, I was the youngest of three boys, and they were insane into hockey. So obviously I followed as the youngest brother.
Gotcha. And how many? And you said you played for 8 years.
Played for 8 years. Yep.
Wow, man. Okay, so if you had to do it all over again, would you still go play hockey?
I wouldn't change a thing. I'll be 100% honest with you. I know there's some stuff, we always look back in the past and say, I wish I could change this. I wish I could change that. But you wouldn't be where you are today. You wouldn't be this type of person you are today if you went back and changed one thing.
That is true. That is true. Just yeah. So now it's okay. So which is very interesting as to you mentioned everything that happened pretty much is what made you what you are right now.
Mhm.
Now, what inspired you to get into the virtual assistant business because it's a very capital intensive business.
It is. It is. So in my own business, two reasons why. When I was running the
Okay.
coaching program, going, talking to all students, whether they're part time, like they were jumping into real estate part time
Okay.
or full time, one thing that I realized is they didn't have enough time actually to do the tasks that I was giving them in our
Okay.
coaching program.
Okay.
So I was always looking for a product or a service out there that could help with that piece and doing the tasks because I would give
Okay.
action items or homework assignment to students and they couldn't fulfill it. And not only that, in my
Mm.
own real estate business, I'm like, all right, there's only one of you, there's only one of me. You could only do so much. So 2013, I started this company in 2007 And then 2013, light bulb went on. I got introduced to what a virtual assistant was. And I'm like, you know what? I think this is exactly what I've been looking for the last 6+ years. And then a light bulb went on, and then I, tested it for 2 years, and, fast forward today, I'm at over 1,000 right now.
Okay, so 1,000 virtual assistants, and primarily you pretty much work specifically with real estate agents.
Well, we got real estate and medical division. So we branched off to to another side business. I can't say
Okay.
side business. It's just a branch off of, the main
Uh,
company started as a real estate company.
So kind of like another division, basically, for the most part.
Correct.
All right.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So talk to me as far as like, let's say I'm a brand new real estate agent. I'm getting into real estate,
Mhm.
and I want to close. Maybe not 240 deals, but I want to do at least 40 deals so I can survive.
Yep.
How many
Yep.
virtual assistants would I need? How much is the cost going to be? And what are the expectations that I should have?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what I would do is I'd focus first and foremost on lead generation, because,
Okay.
like you said, when we first started this, a lot of people are saying, all right, there's no deals. That's the masses are saying, hey, there's no product, there's no properties, there's no deals. We have currently right now, we have over 120 under contract right now. So there
Wow.
are deals out there to have, but it takes consistency. So what I would do is start with one virtual assistant, and I would do a mix of cold calling and texting. Again, obviously DNC, all that stuff you talked about before, right?
Of
Do not
course.
call
Yeah.
us. You gotta follow all those rules and etc. But I would start with one virtual assistant, and only for me, it would be mostly if I'm talking to somebody brand new, it'd be on the lead generation, because you need leads in your business to be able to convert those into listings or sales or whatever you're going to do with them.
Gotcha. Okay, so now I'm going to play devil's advocate here, right? There's the
Yep.
people that they hate cold calling, right? I worked with a lot of agents who are like, yeah, they hate cold calling, and they hate acquiring customers via that method. They like the whole wine and
Mhm.
dine method, right?
Yep.
What is the system as far as the VA gets the list to call, right? The VA gets
Mhm.
the list to call. What is that script? What's that opener? How are you guys able to break the ice so that this person can go from, well, I wasn't expecting this call, to, yeah, sure, the agent can call me.
Yep. I know everyone has different types of scripts, right? There's the agent side, there's investor side. What you
Yeah.
want to know, let's say you buy a list of neighborhoods, right? Zip codes. So what you're
Okay.
going to do is, pick up the phone and say, hey, listen, do you ever think about selling? Do you ever think about buying? What is your goals? What are your goals? Right. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. But your initial thing is, hey, how you doing? Hey, Bob, how are you? Hey, just wondering if I want to gauge a little type of motivation. Are you ever thinking about selling? Are you ever thinking about moving, etc. So there's a lot of different types of ways to do it. And again, you have to abide by certain scripts, etc., on what you can and can't do, right? Because you're not
Yeah.
selling, you're not selling services, etc., etc. So that's definitely something to look into for.
Okay. Okay. So now, from a perspective of there's I can't remember what it's called, but I'm pretty sure you have an idea what I'm talking about, where a person comes in, puts a deal on the contract, and then resells that contract to someone else, and then makes a
Mhm.
broker fee, right? What is it called? I can't remember what the name of it.
You mean like wholesaling? You're talking about?
Wholesaling, yes, yes, wholesaling, yeah.
Yeah,
So now, would you say that same principle of using virtual assistants would work phenomenally if you were to go into a wholesaling kind of deal?
for sure, 100%. Because obviously, if you're a licensed agent, you got to follow certain paths and certain ways to do it, disclosures, et cetera, et cetera. It's just a different model. One of them, you're looking for ways to make money on the listing side, right? Whether you're
Yeah.
representing buyers or sellers and listing the property. On the wholesale side, on the investment side, you're getting a property under contract, and
Okay.
then you're looking to sell the rights to that contract. So that's pretty much what it does. It's the same concept, because you're going direct to seller. Your virtual assistant going direct to seller, gauging seller motivation. It's kind of the same concept.
Got you. Okay. So now let's say, let's just, I mean, obviously the numbers we're going to talk about here is not really guaranteed,
Yep.
but how many, how many cold leads would you say one of the Reva's virtual assistants is going to need to book, 1 to 10 appointments?
See, this is a very difficult question to answer,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
how good is a salesperson, right? Because this is very important. It's the leads that are driven is one thing, but
Okay.
it's a closer on the end as the other. So let's say you're well versed in your area and you've been doing this for a long time, and you
Okay.
take sales training, and an assassin when it comes to selling.
Uh,
You're going
uh-huh.
to get a heck of a lot more listings than I am if I'm not, if I'm not well versed in your area, and I don't spend, the investment to get trained and consistently get trained. So
Okay.
I think that's a very difficult answer to answer.
But more or less from like because the way I'm assuming the virtual assistants work is they will cold call, and then when they find someone who's interested, they would book an appointment on the salesperson's calendar, right?
Correct. Correct.
So so from a virtual assistant side, let's say we have, the closer is not really we're not gauging the performance of the closer, we're gauging the performance of a virtual
Mhm.
assistant. How many would you say they would need? Would you say, maybe 100 leads to book one appointment for the closer, or what would you say is a rough number?
Well, I'll give you an example. So if you're cold calling every single day, you should be able to get probably around 1 to 2 appointments booked, right? So
Okay.
if you're calling full time, that would be just an example. What happens after the virtual assistant books it? I mean, that owning a company like that, it varies because, if you're looking at insurance leads, right? So
Uh-huh.
motivated seller leads are a little different than insurance leads because you're pulling your leads from somewhere else, right? So, but on the real
Correct.
estate side, I would say if you're getting one appointment per day, you're doing a good job.
One appointment per day. Okay, one appointment. And then
Yep.
let's say average close ratio, industry standard, what? You'd say 20%?
Oh, if I had to guess, I would say yeah. I'd say about twenty
Okay.
percent.
So let's say, I'm a new real estate agent, 10%. I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing about 10%. What
Yep.
pointers can you give me to get myself from that 10% close ratio to about a 20, 25, 30% close ratio?
I would invest in sales training. I mean, I think sales training is extremely important because, like I said before, you and I could buy the same lead, right? Let's
Correct?
just say you and I buy that same exact lead off Zillow as an example, just for this conversation. We buy that lead, but you've gone through Grant Cardone sales training. Let's just use that
Uh-huh.
as an example, right?
Yeah.
And you
Uh-huh.
are well versed on exactly how he sells. But me, I don't do any training, right? You are
Uh-huh.
going to crush it. You are going to sell that lead right away. Whereas I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to butcher the lead, and the lead's not going to turn into a listing. So that's how I would answer that question.
So would you also say now, which is also interesting, is in sale, would you also say it's important to actually butcher it, to actually go through the reps of
Yep.
actually getting the reps in, butchering some deals? Because I found when I was, I didn't coach as much, as large group of people as you did. But when I was coaching, I found that people were so scared of failing that they never took action. Right?
100% right. I think failure is the best thing. How are we going to learn, right?
That's the truth. But the reality is this: is how do you? Because innately, how would I put it? Entrepreneurs have an ego,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And no entrepreneur I don't know if you watched the Twitter space with Elon and DeSantis a couple days ago, all right?
I
And
did
it was
not. No, I did not.
but I'm pretty sure you were in the news where there was like the 20 minutes of like, you know because it was like tech issues, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And for a lot of people, that was a massive fail on Twitter, because it's like, dude, you guys are like a massive, social media
Mhm.
platform, and you guys had this, happening. And, but it also got people talking about Twitter,
Yeah.
right? Right. Which is so funny was that it also had people talking about Twitter, which obviously meant it was a negative it was, and I mean, good or bad publicity is still publicity. So
Yep.
I'm curious in your business, right? Have you guys had any failures that you care to share that you've overcome?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you real estate investing. I run a podcast called Pucks to Properties as well. So it's kind of
Okay.
funny that and it's all ex athletes, ex hockey players that jump into real estate. And I just
Interesting.
literally just talked about this about 2 hours ago, and I was talking about a knockdown rebuild that I bought a contract on, and I lost $150,000 back in 2005. That's a
Wow.
lot of money. So
That's a lot
that's
of
a
money. Yeah.
huge yeah, that's a huge failure. However, what I learned from all of that is, I had to work my butt off to obviously make that money back, but
Uh-huh.
also I learned what not to do. Don't get sold in the shiny object because there's no easy money in this world. It takes
Hmm.
time, especially in real estate. It takes time to get momentum. It takes time. Remember, I started in 2004. There's no reason why I should have been investing in a knockdown rebuild when I knew nothing about it. So that was
Sure.
a huge learning experience for me. But you know, I wouldn't change that.
Got you. So the shiny object. So the mistake you made, if I'm understanding, was it wasn't necessarily the 150,000 was the cost of the experience, right? Because I believe if you don't feel the
Correct.
bigger the pain, the more you actually it resonates, right? But the biggest
Correct.
mistake you made was the shiny object syndrome, right? It was shiny, and you're like,
Yep.
"Oh man, I can make some money on here." Now, which is interesting is, so the other day, actually, no, this was yesterday. I was ordering one of my favorite restaurants here in Charlotte, and I was talking to a guy who just started invested in a trucking business, and he put
Mhm.
a significant amount of money down, but he doesn't know anything about trucking, right? He knows
That's a hope investment right there.
that's a
Hope
hope
investment.
investment. Yeah, he knows. I was like, okay, so do you know? I mean, do you even have a CDL? He's like, no, I don't. Okay, I'm like, all right. So who's doing all the deals? And he's like, well, there's three of us in a partnership, and one of the guys know about trucking, so we're very dependent on him. And I was like, okay, so what happens if the guy decides tomorrow to say, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore? What are you going to do? Right? I was like, so it's like you literally all your business is banking
Mhm.
on that. But the main thing was he got into it because he was sold on this dream that, oh man, I can make
Yep.
this much money. And you know what's
Easy money.
interesting?
Easy
E-
money.
Easy
Easy
money.
money.
Just sit back and collect cash. And what's interesting was the business has been operating for like about 6 months now. And I'm like, hey, so what's the financial? What's the numbers? And he said, well, we actually are not, we haven't made zero profit or anything at all. And I was like, so you invested almost 100 grand and you barely, making profit. And he said something which is interesting was like, most people get into business and they expect to not make money for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, right? Now, you've started multiple businesses, right?
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure right now you know how to start a business tomorrow and get it profitable within 30 days.
Yeah, you know, with any business, it is difficult. You do have to have capital. There's always a ramp up time. So just like you
Absolutely.
said, if his expectations in the trucking business are, we're not going to make money for X amount, let's say a year, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be a plan. There's got to be. I mean, you know that having a company, a VA company, right? You
Hmm.
know, you're not making money until you have X amount of clients. So it's the same
Correct.
ramp up time, right? A lot of
Hmm.
people that start companies don't understand that concept. There's going to be a ramp up time, but always plan on whatever time it is. Do your due diligence, right? And
Okay.
real estate's kind of an interesting fact. If you're a real estate agent, you need to gain momentum, right? You're going to get one listing, two listing, three listing, four listing. But maybe
Okay.
the first 6 months, yeah, you're making money, but your initial investment into marketing, you may be upside down until you actually start building your sphere. And every
Okay.
business is the same, right? It's very difficult to be profitable after 1 month to be really candid.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but the main catch 22 or caveat that I'm getting at is most businesses start out product focused, right? They focus on the product, right?
Yep. Yep.
Not on the people, right? Like, and the main point I'm
Hmm.
getting at is like I know a lot. Like there's a guy who does what's this stuff called? He was one of our clients where this heavy moving of build manufactured homes, right?
Yep. Yep.
Moving manufactured homes. And he was very much focused on the product, not really getting the customer, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
if you, I'm pretty sure if you started a business in 30, and what I was getting at is if you started a business today, the first thing you'd focus on, I'm assuming, would be marketing.
Yep. I like where you're going with this because you have to think, and it's just like in real estate or any business, you got to think with the end in mind, right?
Uh huh.
Who's going to buy your product or who's going to buy your service? Because
Hmm.
that's what I said when I first started my first VA company. I tested it for 2 years to make sure the proof of concept worked. And
Okay.
if it didn't work, while I had another thing going, right? I was still coaching, I was still doing this. So I started it with the thought that I was going to win. I did some testing. The
Okay.
testing was accurate. The testing was good. I knew there was going to be there's going to be a buyer for my product. There's going to be a house for my buyer, right? As an example of what we're talking
Uh
about
huh.
here,
Yeah.
you know?
So yeah, you pretty much you tested the concept, but the catch or the caveat there was you were willing to experiment with the idea for 2 years,
Mhm.
right? You're
Yep.
like, hey, if it doesn't work in 2 years, you know what? It's fine. Um, you know, but a lot of people will get into business in your first, 2, 3 years, they don't have that, how would I put it? The business has to work.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, you know what I mean? Like it has to work because if it doesn't work, they've invested your grandmom's money, the grandma's money is in there, grandpa's money's in there, the kids' college funds in there,
Yeah.
and then they end up losing it because they focus
Yep.
on the product, right? So now this is pretty much kind of like gonna like put us into the coaching space, right?
Yep.
What were the key areas that you focused on? Let's say I was a new person, I gave you a call, I was like, hey Bob, this and this is what I'm struggling with. What are the key areas you'd focus in when you were doing the coaching?
We're focused on two things. Number one is the marketing side, setting up consistent marketing. When
Okay.
I first started doing real estate, I door knocked. That's what I did for a year straight with
Wow.
with the thought process of I'm going to learn from ground up. That's really where my headspace was. I'm going
Okay.
to learn and build on top of that. Nowadays, you don't have the door knock anymore because marketing channels have changed. You have
Correct.
cold calling, texting, where you don't have to do any of that. So it's a little different now. But what we would focus on is because no one really has a business unless they have leads. I don't care what industry it is. Like you said,
Correct.
trucking industry, right? You have no one to actually to ride the trucks. Number one, you have no product to deliver. That's number two. So if you look at real estate, if you're an agent or an investor, if you don't have motivated leads or a list or anything like that, marketing, bringing in those leads, you don't have a business. You have no properties to list. You have no properties to sell. You have no buyers to show houses to. So that was the main focus right up front is marketing. And then we would also focus on, obviously business setup and then sales.
Okay. Okay. So the marketing. Okay. Now, are you guys? Is this strictly just cold calling and are you doing any direct mail? Are you sending out mail pieces out? Are you doing anything with social
Yep,
media?
we do. So the way I look at social media is more on the branding side, right? We don't drive
Correct.
leads. I think it's more on the branding advertising side. We do a lot of that, but then we cold call, text message, direct mail, and we do some PPC as well. Those are our
Okay.
main channels right now.
Got you. Now, how are you able to, especially if you're doing PPC? I'm assuming that's Google Ads for the most part, right? How are you
Mhm.
able to balance the cost? Because what is the, let's say, because I'm not necessarily in real estate right now, and it's a
Yep.
market that I'm fascinated with. But let's say we have a house on the contract now, and you're like, yeah, let's go ahead and do
Yep.
the deal. How long is it going to be till you actually get a payout on that deal?
So you mean if once I get a property listed? So
Yep.
this all depends on each different area. Like Charlotte. Charlotte's hot. There's still a ton of buyers there. So you list a
Correct.
property, it's typically gone very quick. And if it's priced right, it's gone the first week. Even with today's interest rates, it's pretty interesting. But if you go to like a more of a rural area, it's going to take you, it's maybe 60, 90 days, 120 days to sell. It all depends on where you're at and where that property is located.
Okay. So now let's say you find a deal. Let's say you find a deal up.
Right.
Let's say I find a deal here in Charlotte, right? And
Right.
close up and everything. Everything's on the contract. What would you say about 3 months before I get the first check?
Well, it takes you about 30 days. So once you get a property under contract, it takes you about 30, 40 days to close. So if you have a
Okay.
listing today, it's on the market for a month, and then you get it under contract, it'll take you, probably 60, 70 days to get a check.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's say
Yeah.
90, 100. Let's say worst case, 4 months. So how are you able to
Yep.
balance managing the cost per se? Because most, and I'm speaking from the average real estate agent getting into
Yep.
business, PPC ads are not the cheapest, especially for the keyword real,
No, they're not.
and anything that has to do with real estate, mortgage,
Mhm.
those keywords are not cheap. So what are some pointers you can give to the agents? Like, if I'm a new agent, should I even be investing in PPC to start?
I wouldn't. I mean, for me personally, when I first jumped in, it took me years to jump into PPC, and PPC
Okay.
is expensive. It is expensive. So
Uh
as a
huh.
new individual, if you don't have a pile of cash here, I would do cold calling, I would do text messaging, I would do other cheaper avenues instead of PPC.
Got you. So now let's talk about, let's say, because one of the cheaper avenue, I would say cold calling and having a VA cold call is very cheap. What is the average cost? Do you guys, let's say I wanted to hire a Reva Global a virtual assistant.
Yep.
What is the cost of a Reva VA per hour, or do you guys
Mhm.
do packages?
We do part-time, full-time, and we keep it very simple. It's $10.60 an hour. Very, very
Okay.
simple. We've tried different pricing models. I've tried everything, and this is the easiest for us. Just keep it very, very standard.
Okay. Okay. So you sure? Okay. So because one of the things that we do on our end is, which is like a we tried, similar pricing model per se.
Mhm,
But I do a lot of more on the social media advertising side of things, and we tried
mhm,
the free trial side of things initially
mhm.
without a setup fee. So initially it'd be like, hey, you'd get 20 hours for free, which I would say I would not advise that, guys. That's expensive
No,
because you
no,
still
yeah,
yeah
don't.
yeah you still have to pay your VAs because they're not. It may be free to
That's
the
right.
customer, but it's not free for you because somebody still has to
Yeah.
foot the bill. But one of the things we started doing was we started doing like a one-time deposit fee, right? So there was a
Mhm,
one-time fee plus a free trial per se. But then again, the deposit kind of
yeah.
covers that. I don't know if you guys like like the pricing model is it like how were you able to arrive at that 1060? Like is it
So just looking at what industry is, we put a lot of emphasis on training our VAs. We train them
okay?
for about 4 weeks. So there's an expense there that the company, obviously has. So that's why upfront starting a VA company, you need money, right?
Of
You
course,
need resources. You said that a little earlier. You need resources to build up the infrastructure,
of
and then
course.
also the marketing and building clients, and then retention and all that kind of good stuff. So we just came up with the model. I looked at all my numbers, and I saw that there was a break even number, right? Of how many
Okay,
clients, whether it's 100 clients, 200 clients, whatever that number is, there's going to be a number, and then you need those resources back here. So that's what we did. And I figured out the numbers over time. I was looking at, all right, what's all of our support? Cause a lot of individuals don't understand it's behind the scenes. You know this as having
yeah,
a VA company. Behind the scenes, you still need managers, you still
uh
need
huh,
VAs, you still
uh huh,
need, you need HR, you need
yep.
recruiting, you need advertising, you need all of that stuff behind the scenes.
You still need to hire. Yeah, there's a lot of operational
Yep.
margins, a lot of things that goes into the margins that
Mhm.
the average person doesn't think about. And I don't think anybody who has a business, most people without businesses never think about the operational cost, right?
Right.
It's
Right.
always like, hey, how can I get this for cheap? But then they never think about the fact like, hey, this person actually still has a family that they have to feed and
Yep.
things that they have to do. Now, okay, so we've got the VA side of things. If someone wants to work with you, let's say they're watching this and like, hey, I
Yep.
really like the fact that you have a virtual assistant who's specifically trained in the real estate side of things. How do they get a hold of you?
Very simple. You go on our website, which is Reva Global, REVA global.com. Like just like you. I'm
Yeah.
on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. You can email me direct, which is bob@revaglobal.com.
Okay. Okay. Definitely go check him. Go definitely go. And I have a VA and I'm 100% saying, Bob's VA service is definitely the real deal. Definitely click the link. The link is going to be in the description, guys. Just go ahead and, book a call. How does it work? Is it a consultation or they go ahead and,
Yeah.
okay. So there's a
Yeah. You
consultation.
can, you can do exactly. Yeah.
So walk me through. So, I book a call, let's say, someone's looking at watching us
Yep.
right now and they're going to book a call. So the next steps is they book a call and then you tailor the plan to them, I assume.
Yeah. So what you do is you walk through exactly what the needs are in that. So let's use as an example, real estate, right? If they're
Yeah.
looking for leads, then we'll create a plan for them on how to generate leads for that individual person. And then I don't know if you do the same thing. We do predictive index assessments
Okay.
for our virtual assistants. So then now we put them on three different interviews with three different, obviously, virtual assistants. And then they hand pick who they want because not
Mhm.
everyone's the same, right? You and I
True.
may have a relationship where, you interview a different VA, won't feel the same. So we put them on three interviews. And if you want to pick three more after that, you can do another three interviews until you find the right match, kind of like match.com. And we match
Yeah.
them up with exactly, exactly the virtual assistant. And then we pass them off to our operations team where we have a manager that oversees.
Yeah. I think you need to get the domain match.com, but for VAs, that it's a little bit longer, but yeah. So now what is the minimum, because a lot of people might be watching this with only maybe $100 in the bank or $200 in the bank. What is the minimum you'd say someone needs to come in at least you'd say, gives them a higher odds and higher likelihood of success? Is it $2,000 required, would be recommended, 3,000,
Yeah.
or just say it's a recommendation? And that's factoring also
Well,
the
I
leads.
mean, yeah, here's what I would recommend first. I recommend if you don't have that much budget, I would recommend doing it yourself. I would buy a
Okay.
list. I would skip trade, but I would do it yourself first. And
Okay.
then once you have enough resources, then I would invest in a virtual assistant to help you, get to where you want to go. But first and foremost, and I'm putting my coaching hat on, right? Not
Uh,
my virtual assistant business hat on. I would first tell you to first do it yourself because it's cheap. Right. If you do everything yourself, just spend money on
correct.
the list, spend money on getting that a phone number, and you do all that yourself. But once you have resources, which is obviously money, then I would invest in a virtual assistant.
Okay. 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 So everything
Yep.
is now. Do you? I'm assuming you're not in the coaching space anymore, but do you offer trainings for
Yeah.
let's say someone doesn't know anything about cold calling and they just got into real
Yeah.
estate because their cousin is doing it and it's making a lot of money. Do you have any coaching? Do you offer any coaching? Where would you say they need to go to get that resources?
I would say they go to you. They would call you. They would call. No, there's a lot of programs out there. I would just say go on the internet. I have a lot of friends that actually have coaching programs. So there's a lot of different avenues. Just, I would say Google it, but make sure it's specific to your industry, right? So
Yeah.
you have coaching that's specific to you. And there's coaching specific to scripting, cold calling, and sales. That's where I would say to go to first. Whether you're a real
Gotcha.
estate agent or investor, that would be two different areas.
Okay. 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 All
Yep.
right. Now, do you? So I want to kind of segue into, I sent this into Preston, and it was the
Yep.
list of dumb questions that I typically ask, just because keep it a little bit lighthearted here. So do you ever use hockey terms in your real estate deals like slap shot or power play?
In a real estate, well, I actually use it with our team here. So we use always analogies of hockey. Like, if you start off on the fourth line, it depends what kind of level you're at. What do
Yeah.
you have to do to get up to the first line? So within our team here on my real estate side, we do use terms like that.
Gotcha. So you have a real estate, I would say brokerage or agency per se.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Perfect. And how many agents do you have under you? More or less.
So we have, not everybody in our office is licensed because we also have an investment arm. So my business
Okay.
partner owns a brokerage. He has, I believe I have probably 5 agents underneath him, but we have 15 individuals on the investment side that work for us.
I love it, man. I love it. I love it. Now,
Yep.
obviously, let's say I'm watching this from an investor side of things. Is it like is it open for investment? Do you have like a syndication, or it's just pretty much just in house?
So we don't do syndications here, which is, obviously pooling people's money. I know that might not be the right term, but taking people's money, obviously, put it
Yeah.
together and then buying a building. We don't do that in here. We just focus on 1 to 4 unit properties, buying and selling, mostly on the wholesale side, like you said.
Gotcha. So it's not open for investment for outside
Nope.
investors for the most part. Okay. Gotcha. But if
Nope.
somebody wanted to, learn more about the deals, they can always obviously reach out to you for the most part.
Correct.
So, all right. So back on again, we have 2 more questions here. So have you ever tried
Yeah.
ice skating on one of your properties?
Interesting. No, I have not. No, I have not. That's a good one though. I like it.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so this one is a very interesting one, and it might be a little confusing here. But if a property were a hockey team, which room would be the goalie?
It'd have to be probably the bathroom.
Why the bathroom? You gotta follow up with that one. Yeah, right. Why the
Oh, man.
bathroom?
We gotta keep it clean here, but because you have to stop. You gotta stop the, what?
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, so I mean, any questions? We're pretty much wrapping up here. Any questions you have for me? Any questions you have
Yep.
for the audience? Anything that you would like to ask? For the most part.
I would just say my recommendation is, if you're thinking whatever it is, what business it is, if you've been thinking about it for a long time, the best thing to do is take action and do it. And also, but before you do it, do your due diligence, get the right mentoring. Again, I'm not in the education space anymore, but I highly recommend. Yeah, there's a lot of free resources out there, but I would work with somebody who has done what you're looking to do. I think it's really, really important. A lot of people forget the fact that we need mentors, we need coaches, we need the proper education in what we're doing, because don't do what I did in 2005 when I jumped into an investment where I had no idea what a knockdown rebuild even looked like. So that's my recommendation on what I would do.
Got you. So I think we're gonna call this video the Bob's $150,000 mistake.
I love it.
I mean, it's gonna be like episode. Wow. No, but I mean, then again, I personally believe, guys, and this is honestly, it's like, you would get further in life if you learn from other people's mistakes, right? And this was a mistake that cost 150,000. I mean, you might be thinking of getting into a business that you didn't do digital diligence, and you're going to invest with other people's money into this business, right? Yeah, think about it. You don't know anything about this business, and you're putting your grandma's money, your mom's money, your kids' college fund money. You don't want to be that person that's uninvited from every single event. So,
That's good.
so just saying, and also you have a podcast. I didn't really talk much about this, but you have you
Yeah.
also you mentioned and you also co-host the Friday Coffee Break.
So we stopped actually doing that one. So right now I focus on pucks to properties.
Okay, and that's mostly former athletes getting into real estate.
Correct. Correct.
It's called Pucks to Properties.
Pucks to properties. Yeah. So it's ex hockey players that have, think about this. And any athlete, no matter what, I don't care. If you played sports growing up, you know when you're done playing that sport, you go through kind of a lull. Like I call it a lull,
Mhm.
but some people may call it a depression, because you go from the locker room, from having strength and conditioning coaches to all of that discipline. All of a sudden now that's gone, and now you're out into the wild, if you will.
Gotcha.
It's a very difficult transition sometimes for a lot of people.
Got you. Okay, so you kind of just help bridge the gap because it's kind of like army guys or service members when they
Mhm.
come back into the civilian world, and you've been I mean you've been 14, 15, 16, maybe even 4
Yeah,
years in service. Now you're like, what do I do? Right? Because it's like you don't
correct.
fit in, and it's almost like you're looking for what your other people that were in similar situations like you are in. So I mean, if
Mhm.
I don't know if any hockey players watching this, I mean, if you are, I mean, definitely, Bob is, you guys can definitely talk about
Give me a
some,
call. Give me a call. That's right.
yeah, definitely give Bob a call and definitely check out the podcast Puck to Properties. And is that on Spotify, YouTube, or is that?
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Okay, it's on YouTube. Yep. And then also, I'm going to go ahead and link to the podcast as well. So there's going to be a
Okay,
link to Reva Global in the description. There's going to be also a link
cool.
to the podcast as well. So definitely go check it out, guys. And Bob, it was an absolute pleasure having you. And, hopefully we could do this in person when I'm in Connecticut.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me. Awesome.